into the countdown. G'day everyone and welcome to the GameDay Squad Aussie Rules Fantasy Show. I'm Pitty and alongside Haz together we are the Fantasy Bros, and you'll also notice on screen we have Dill there as well, our resident fantasy bro from the rugby league side of things. And we've partnered with GameDay Squad to bring you everything you need to know to succeed in GDS Aussie Rules this season. Dill, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Just off the back of the NRL show, we announced massive signing to the Fantasy Bros. Fantasy Bros Matt has joined the team for NFL. So that was really exciting. And now I'm here to do some AFL chat as well. We're going to talk some CBAs, some TOGs, I hope. Anything else I need to know?
Yeah, what do those things mean, mate?
Yeah, you'll tell me. But no, I'm looking forward to a big show. As I've spoken about plenty of times, you boys are doing some unreal work and you're keeping me in the hunt for a first spot in starter, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more soon.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks again for jumping on. We've also got Bales joining us tonight for this big round 19 preview. It poses a really interesting round this week. There's lots of options across all lines, so hopefully we can help you out, and hopefully we can help myself out too, because I've been struggling to pick my own squads this week when looking at those. And just quickly, mate, it's good to be live again. We've had a few, pre-recorded episodes, Haz and myself being on school holidays, and it's nice to be doing that. But it's also good to be back live because we get to see Arnie Booger in the chat there as well. G'day, Arnie Booger. And of course, Nate Daddies as well, a regular. So it's great to see you guys in the chat, and make sure you're dropping your comments. Let us know what you think in preparation for this big round. Now, before we do go any further, just make sure as well that you have signed up to GameDay Squad, all of our new coaches, and you've used that code on screen, FBAR26. Across all formats, there's been injuries, there's been suspensions, other formats in fantasy have absolutely taken a hit, particularly in those last couple of weeks, but all season really. Like some coaches have had over 20 forced trades, which, yeah, it's an absolute bloodbath. But over at GameDay Squad, mate, you clear your squad and off you go. You hit the trade market, and it's every week's a new week. So make sure you've done that. And as Dill said, we've got NFL coming to GameDay Squad, which is absolutely massive. Obviously, we have EPL, cricket, women's Aussie rules. There's so much going on, plus your rugby league and AFL. And of course, sign up to our Fantasy Bros AU socials there as well. Now, before we get into it, let's have a look around the grounds for round 18. So, Dill, before we get into our stars and scars, before we talk about the Classic Cup, just tell us how you went around the grounds in the competitions that you're playing in.
Yeah, so starter, obviously my main comp, as I said, finished third for the round in starter, 2,892 points. Kept me in that second spot, which I'm about 70 points behind that second position overall for the season. So that's my really big push now. And then in the contender, I finished 68th. There's 2,791 GDS points. I guess for me, the hard part is that really all of my cards are just off the back of those starter wins or finishings. And I've just been building my squad from there. I really haven't put any money into the AFL side of things. And I guess it's a really good case study for anyone that is looking to sign up that hasn't done it yet. You don't have to pay to win. You can definitely just start with some of those early cards, the bronze cards that you get in your starter pack, plus some of those prize packs that you can win over a longer period of time. Build your team up, and then you're in a competition and you can have every chance of doing well, especially when you're following your boys' advice, as I did last week. And we can see on screen plenty of stars, particularly for you, mate. A couple of Brisbane Lions.
Yeah, they were absolutely massive. And I think they were a big reason for my finishes there too. And yeah, I think you were towards the top of leaderboards. I was towards the top as well. So yeah, sixth in Classic was my best finish. But funnily enough, I had 4 top 20 finishes, mate. So I mean, if you kind of take out prime time, because I've never a chance over there. I think my best has been 19th over there once. But if you take that out, like really 5 out of 5 other comps. Those 4 out of 5 comps essentially are placing that top 20. So I'm really happy with that. And yeah, 12th in Challenger, I was really stoked with that too, because I mentioned in Discord that I sold my All-Star Matt Kennedy for $35 because I saw in the trade market, Danny D, shout out to Danny D, he had a Diamond Lockie Neal for $33. So I sold the All-Star Matt Kennedy, and then I got the Diamond Lockie Neal, put him in Challenger, and he had 173 base points. So he was a huge star for me. I had him across all squads. I had Will Ashcroft across all squads, and they cashed in. And I think Will Ashcroft did something stupid in the last 2 minutes. He would have had over 40 GDS points just in the last 2 minutes alone, thanks to a couple goals and just absolutely racking late. So you love that as a fantasy coach. It took me from the time I left the stand with my son to get down to the bus, and he had been, over 40 GDS points. So that was really good to see when we hopped on the bus.
Like that.
And for Haz, obviously there, mate, too. He finished 7th in Contender, 9th in Classic, and he also had 4 top 20 finishes. So clearly we were on the money last week with what we were doing. But there were a few scars in our squads, unfortunately. And before I ask you to share one of your scars there, mate, just make sure if you're listening along, hey, drop in the chat who was your star and who was your scar, because I felt like it was one of those weeks. There were so many stars, but there were also so many blokes that let us down.
Yeah, look, there was 2. Obviously, I feel bad because I'm literally just following your advice each and every week. But the big 2 scars, I think, has pointed out on screen there is Caleb Daniel. You guys probably just got it a little bit wrong there. The matchup was clearly an opportunity for him to deliver, and he just wasn't able to. Has just mentioned his teammate Parker scored 121. Really, that probably should have been Daniel's score, and we probably should have been talking about Daniel as a potential star for us. But yeah, that probably hurt a lot of coaches, as did Zach Merritt. Auntie Booger in the chat. Merritt and Daniels were the big 2. What did he end up with? 41 GDS points. So look, it was just a horrible game for a couple of blokes there. Horrible weekend for a couple of blokes. Killed Auntie Booger as well.
Yeah, that was tough. Again, being at that game, I was watching him run around out there, and to be fair, I didn't actually really notice him, and that was a really disappointing performance because we know how good a player Zach Merritt can be, and that's not like him. So it just poses a really interesting question this week in terms of what coaches are going to do, because he's one of the most picked midfielders on GameDay Squad every single week. And yeah, mate, Caleb Daniel, I cannot believe I played that potato in a helmet in every single one of my teams. I'm so annoyed by that. Luke Parker's a midfielder, but he plays in defence, so it's really annoying we can't pick a Luke Parker, but looking forward to 2027. I assume he's going around again. He's probably going to be a really good defender pick for us next year if he keeps that role and keeps going the way he is. But yeah, BJ Williams for me in my forward line. I cannot believe the performance that bloke put up. I picked him. He had the best ruck matchup going around, and he's available as a forward for us. I just thought that he was going to be a really solid pick, and he had scope for a ceiling, particularly when Tim English was ruled out late. So that already green matchup got even greener, and he had the best part of 40 GDS points at quarter time. He was tracking really well, looked dominant out of the middle, and then he fumbled his way to 80 GDS points, and it's not enough. I think he had, what did I have there? It would have only been 4 kicks, I reckon, or 2 kicks for the day.
2 kicks, yeah.
2 kicks, 8 GDS points from those kicks alone, 6 disposals and 1 mark. So just an absolutely shocking performance. And I could have gone in so many other directions, but instead I went to BJ, and I will not be going there again. And again, Arnie Booger in the chat there. Everyone was everyone. I won't read that out, that comment, but yes, everyone was chasing him last week. Anyway,
I thought it was one of those ones where. Sorry, Pitty. I thought it was one of those ones where you had already set the reel up at quarter time with the 40 points. You're fist pumping, you're celebrating, and you're about to post, and then decided not to.
No, I've learnt my lesson. I don't do that anymore because the footy gods just cut you down really quick. So there's actually someone I did that for that we're going to talk about tonight. I did that for this bloke. He was on nearly 100 points at halftime earlier in the season, and I put it in Discord, and I had the head wobbles when I was walking out to the kitchen, and he scraped his way to 120 in the end. So I won't be doing that again. But as you can see, our round 19 fixtures, they're on screen. We have our Stats Lab primetime fixtures. So tomorrow night, we have the Cats up against the Saints down at the Cattery. That's in Geelong. So there's been 7 changes for the Geelong side tomorrow night. So massive changes there. And Mitch Edwards, the young ruck, is going to come back in. So we've got an under-22s ruck again. Poses a question we'll talk about when we get to the ruck line when it comes to Rowan Marshall, who should be awesome. And then on the Friday night, Friday 17th of July, we have the Swans up against the Crows at the SCG, and that's going to be an absolute belter there. I can't wait to tune in for that one, a cracking game of footy. The Saturday slate, Saturday 18th of July, we have the Power up against the Dockers over there at Adelaide Oval, and the Power, they're going to be without Zach Butters and without Jason Horne-Francis in the midfield. So that's an injury to Butters and a suspension to Horne-Francis, which they're not going to challenge. So their midfield is going to look so different this week, and they're really limping towards the finish line this season, like a few coaches are in other formats. And as we can see there, as we have the Kangaroos up against the Demons, we have the Magpies against the Blues at the MCG. That'll be a good game as well. 2 rivals going at it. And then we have our Lions boys up against the Eagles over in the West, which will be a cracking game And before I talk about our FantasyBros Sunday Showdown fixtures, we actually have our special guest for the night joining us in Bales from the AFL Fantasy Fanatics. Bales, how are you, mate?
Oh, computers! I tell you, they're good fun. They're good fun, aren't they? Right as I'm about to click join a few minutes ago, the computer just decided to shut down for no apparent reason. When it still had I didn't plug it in right, but it still had 50%. So I don't understand how the computer decides to shut down at that point. And then of course, you got to wait for it to load and everything like that. So apologies for the delay, guys, but I'm here. So hopefully, I didn't miss too much.
No, mate, you're all good. We've just started going through the fixtures. What we might do, we might actually finish talking about our fixtures for the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown. We're partway through that. We then might circle back, mate, and just see how you went around the grounds in round 18. If you want to have a look and see how you went in your competitions and who a star and a scar might have been. And I actually didn't even talk about the Cup, so we might even talk about that quickly too. But in terms of that FantasyBros Sunday Showdown fixture, we have the Tigers up against the Hawks at the MCG. Again, that looks like a game coaches might want to be targeting. And we obviously have the Suns up against the Bulldogs at People First Stadium and the Bombers up against the Giants at Marvel Stadium. So lots of fixtures there that we're going to unpack there, Bales. And if I circle back to around the grounds, how did you go there, mate? What was your best finish? How'd you go? What did your week look like?
Yeah, the week was okay. Still haven't. It's been a few weeks since I've had a top 10 week, which has been a shame. So best finish was 12th in Contender, 14th in Classics, so not too far behind. But overall, bit of a middling week for a few competitions, and no other. I think I had a cut all top 50, but they were 30th, 40th, and I'm hoping to be pushing a little bit higher than that. So not too bad sort of overall. But in terms of my sort of scar and star of the week, I've got to give my scar to, I don't know if, he's on the list there from Has, but bloody Caleb Daniel. Just when you put a little bit of trust in the man, in a good matchup against Collingwood, I'm like, yep, he'll rack it up. No, he didn't. So he gets the
It was disgraceful.
He gets the definite scar of the week. In terms of the star of the week, there was a few quite good performers through the round. I'll probably got to give it. Well, again, I've probably got to jump in with you, Pitty, there, and give it to the Lions duo of Lockie Neal and Will Ashcroft, because not only did I have both of them in, but they had a bit of salary on top of them. And yes, I know matchup was great, but players still got to go out there and get it done. Mm-hmm. And both of them did very much get it done. Also, shout out to my boy, which if you want a different player there, Isaac Rankin. It was good to see him bounce back to some form.
Oh, yeah.
He was fantastic. I'm a little bit nervous about a James Jordan tag this week, which I'm sure we'll chat about. But hopefully he can kick on from here and be someone that we can rely on week in, week out for the remainder of the season.
It's great to see Isaac Rankin back in form too. He's one of those players you just love watching when they're going at their best, and probably similar to those Lions boys like a Will Ashcroft, just seeing them in full flight in that sort of matchup, and you have them in your squads. There's no better feeling.
Didn't you have
really?
Didn't Will Ashcroft have 50 points, GDS points, and time on or something ridiculous on the weekend?
We just mentioned that. So I said I literally was in the stands with my son. We walked out and down to the bus to get home early because it was a school night, and then I heard his song player, and as we were walking down, I was like, "Oh, he's got a goal, you beauty!" Got down to the bus, and there was a Bombers supporter behind me going, "Bloody Ashcroft's kicked another goal." I was just there going, "Yes!" Yeah, it was so good. No better feeling. But before we get into the round preview, Dill, mate, thanks so much for joining us there for that intro, and it's always good to see your face, mate. Obviously, you're doing so much work there for GameDay Squad and Fantasy Bros, and yeah, it's good having a chat to you, mate, with the footy.
Yeah, I'm pretty thankful that Bales did turn up, because I was not ready to talk about, what did I say, CBAs and TOGs and kick-ins. No, I really appreciate all the work that you boys have been doing for Fantasy Bros and loving all the content. And as I said, you are keeping me afloat, second and starter, and I'm literally just following everything that is said on this show. So thank you very much, and thank you to everyone that's supporting all of us and everything that we do across the Fantasy Bros. Boys, have a great show. I'll be watching and I will be following along. Cheers, guys.
Beautiful. Sounds good. Thank you again, mate. Appreciate it. All right, Bales, let's jump into it, mate. Our defenders there, because I was saying this round looks really interesting. I'm actually struggling to really land on a squad I'm super happy with. There's just I feel like there's a lot of options this week we could be going.
Yeah.
And you'll notice I don't really have a clear avoid in that back line. I just feel like there's a couple question marks I have, but they're not a real clear avoid. Like a John Noble is probably a really good example of that. But if we sort of start with maybe a couple bits of news coming out from our defenders before we jump into it. We have Lockie Whitfield. He should be back. He's progressing pretty well through those concussion protocols, I believe. So he should be right for selection. We'll just keep an eye on that in teams. Wang, Isaiah Wanganeen Miller, I assume he will cop some attention from an O'Sheen Mullen, or you would think so. You would hope so.
Got to be surely, but I feel like
I don't know how.
I feel like he's still locked in, right? We still plug him in.
Yeah,
because
no, we're not going to.
He does that. Like we know that he does that overpowered play. It's like that play in like if anyone played FIFA back in the day or anything like that, and you hear like the YouTubers say like this is the meta play. The meta play in football is Nasai gets a kick in, he kicks it 20, 25 meters away from him, and he just sprints by for the handball. So we get the 8-point play with the 2 kicks there, and if he gets the kick and then gets the mark down the line, you're looking like a 13, 17-point play possibly there. So it is a bit overpowered. And I think that even though Mullen will go to him, I think it's a good matchup because I think Mullen's got the pace to stay with Naz, but at the same time, Naz taking all those kick-ins, I think he'll still get his 3-figure score, even if it's just a 108, 110 or that. But I just think the ability that he can go big and they do go to someone else, I think we'll still back him in, I reckon.
Yeah, and I'm exactly the same in my thinking there, mate. And obviously Bailey Dale, he's out for 5 weeks. He was looking like such a good pick in our backlines. Yeah, I know. I actually missed the injury late in that game. I didn't quite see him come off. I knew he had, but it's disappointing. He had a good score, 124. He was coming into a good matchup, and he basically had the monopoly back there. He was just such a good pick in our backlines, and it's just a shame we're going to lose him. And you never like seeing injuries, so. And Bailey Dale is out for all our viewers and listeners. Just make sure you're not picking a Bailey Dale.
Good matchup as well. He would have had Gold Coast and Richmond. He would have been someone that was probably locked in for us, but unfortunately not.
Yeah, exactly. And we might even start there. Hey, like we've got Ash, Witt, Wang, Zorko. I think that they're all probably plays in our back line. What are your thoughts on Zorko? I know you're going to talk about Milan Murdoch.
Yeah, you knew exactly what I was doing, what I was saying there. That's the one little flag I've got.
Yeah, because that was the flag with Bailey Dale last week. We did discuss that as well, but Haz and I sort of came to the conclusion we were pretty happy with Bailey Dale still being a solid pick. I remember Archie Roberts did this when they played over in the West. He got clamped early because I avoided him in this game, and he just couldn't get those handball receives. He couldn't get those short 45 kicks. Like Milan Murdoch just followed him really close, but as the game wore on, Archie worked into the contest by taking his kick-ins, and he still got to a solid score. It was a 99, I think, from memory, or a 98 from an Archie Roberts. And I felt Bailey Dale could do the same, particularly with the amount, like the sheer amount of kick-ins he was taking. So he still got to a good score, and I feel like a Zorko could almost do something similar where he should still get to a good score, and I'm not sure I want to avoid him. Do your views differ on that? Are you avoiding?
He's in there now, but that was obviously before I'd really I looked at just purely matchups, and I was like, is he going to get? And then I thought about it after, I'm like, crap, Milan Murdoch's probably going to go next to him. I worry a little bit because of his age, and I just feel like he's not going to push himself to the absolute limit to make sure that he's right to get some games on the belt leading in a final. So if he does cop attention, I sort of think that, well, I don't know if he's going to get to a score like a Roberts and Dale did. Like Dale took 11 kick-ins to get to that score as well. That was sort of what really got him to there. And I feel like Zorko doesn't have he's the number one kick-in taker, but I feel like Wilmot and Jasper Fletcher are also very capable of taking a few kick-ins here and there. So like he could only have maybe 4 or 5 kick-ins and get himself, I could see like an 85, 95 type score there. And I feel like I want players that can hit the ceiling. And I feel like the defensive matchups this week is actually a lot of good defenders that have got good matchups, and then some that have got trickier ones. But like for example, Cal Wilkie against Geelong, like I know that it's a tough matchup, but how can you leave that guy out? That guy just lives and breathes +7s in fantasy. It's ridiculous.
And and he's part of the Saints. They're playing some of the best fantasy football going around. So
Yeah.
you do feel sort of a bit dirty leaving him out. And they've got Jezza Cameron out this week as well too. So how does that affect that sort of forward line and what they might do down back? Sinclair's still not there. So it's very hard to leave him out. I know we might talk about him a bit more soon. But Arnie Booger's put this in there. Avoid Caleb Daniel. Oh, yeah, I'm not going there this week after what he dished up, but he has another good matchup again, and it wouldn't actually surprise me if he bounces back this week with a really good score. So, yeah, I'm not going to play him, but I'm not confident enough to say avoid because he's every chance of actually putting up a really good score. So if you've got a pod side, I don't mind throwing that in there because I feel like sometimes players do that. You play them one week and they don't do what you want, so you take them out, and then they just do exactly what you thought they were going to do the next. So I'm not confident enough to say avoid him completely. I'm just not confident to play him in my main squads I'm prioritising after what he dished up last week. But as I said, might throw him in a contender side. So out of those there on screen, mate, Wilkie, Dacos, Noble, Roberts, those options there. Which one are you liking the most for your squads?
I feel like they've all got a slight flag. Like Roberts and Noble have got the best matchups of the four. Josh Day's a bit of a tricky matchup, but again, he's finding some real nice form. I think he's had 4 of his last 5 been pretty nice. I think they've been all 4 of the last 5 been over 120, if I'm not mistaken, or at least very close to they've all been definitely over 115.
Four games in four in his last 5 over 120.
So he's got that ceiling, and I feel like they're using him more. There was that patch in the middle of the year that they weren't really using him, and he was sort of, I don't know, so at times in no man's land, and it was, and I think the catalyst of actually his form was actually that last quarter against Port Adelaide, if you remember the Dacos junk at the back of that game when I think Josh Davis had like a 65, 70 point quarter, which, hey, we love that. We love that, right? But ever since then, he's been in good form. He's been getting it done. Yeah. So I feel like he's someone that, regardless of the Carlton matchup, it might be tricky on pay, but it doesn't scare me enough to leave him out. Yep. So I'm putting him in. So I probably like him the most. And then I think Cal Wilkie's probably my next guy, which, funny enough, the 2 guys with the tough matchups, they're probably the guys I like because Wilkie's just been someone that I've sort of gone, well, we want our halfback flankers and our running defenders being or guys playing the midfield that we can pick in defence to be the guys we pick in our back lines. But he's very much like, if people remember a few years ago, Luke Ryan before Freo changed their game style that year and went a lot more quicker. Luke Ryan he wasn't running halfback. He was the more traditional sort of one-on-one defender, but would just get involved in all of the chip marking back there. And that's Cal Wilkie, right? But Cal Wilkie's almost taking it to a different level, or at least doing on the same level as Luke Ryan when he was putting out those 140s, 150s every week. So unless Geelong are going to be like leaving someone on him behind the ball, which is Jack Henry being named?
Yeah, he's on the bench.
So that's probably the slight flag. Jack Henry has done roles like that in the past, and I probably envision him doing that. It's actually because I thought he was going to be out. So seeing that there probably makes me a little bit skeptical about Wilkie this week. Maybe that ceiling's not there, particularly against Geelong. So maybe I'm actually probably crossing him off. So maybe Roberts is probably the one that comes in more for him that I'm thinking, because what did he score last week, Archie Roberts? Because he was one of the top scorers for the Bombers against Brisbane, obviously in that tough loss for them. So
89 last week, which is respectable against the Lions at
first
the
game back, only 1 mark, which we know that he can get more of. So as Corey said there, Jack Henry did to Andrews earlier this year. So he's going to go to Cal Wilkie. I'd be pretty shocked if he didn't. So
he'd have to.
Are you leaving him out with that in mind?
Oh, look, Haz and I were discussing this, and we didn't come to an exact answer because we were like, let's just see what happens. We'll see what happens if it gets named. But maybe, because there's so many good matchups down there. The thing I want to flag, I do want to give both sides of this, right? He's had scores of 164, 119, 142, and 95 in his last 4 games.
Yeah.
His time on ground last week was 100%.
He doesn't come off, It's pretty much most weeks,
No. Now, he doesn't take many kick-ins, but he doesn't really need to. And his marks in those last 3 weeks have been up. 16 marks, 11 marks, and 14 marks. So, God, it's hard. And also the Giants last week against the Cats, Harry Himmelberg, 117, Sam Taylor, 109, and obviously Ash had his 137. So some defenders actually racked last week or did quite well against the Cats. So it's really hard to leave him out. His last 4 against the Cats, though, up and down, 73, 109, 157, and 69. So not sure if that really helps. It just kind of cements in terms of his current role that he's been such a good player for us. maybe if you look at that form previously against the Cats and the fact Jack Henry's in the side and has done jobs like that, they have to sort of go to him. Surely.
They have to. He's been so good. Like, it's just stuff that he does off the ball as well, and obviously in defence, he's such a valuable player. So they'd be silly probably not to, because I don't know who else they'd go to outside that. So I felt that puts Archie Roberts probably up my list. I feel like, are you with Noble and Gold Coast just like off of them all at the moment? Because I feel like I just can't trust anything they're going to do. Plus, Noble's dealing with a pretty bad corky, so he's obviously touch and go. As Arnie Booger says there, like, he's been very up and down. He was looking decent before the corky's playing defence. Same with the week before, so I feel like he will play defence, but just that corky's just probably a little bit of a worry. But the matchup on paper against the Dogs screams like a great score.
Yeah. So. I think that's why I'm finding this week so difficult, is because we've got like these really big positives to be picking players. Like, you look at Cal Wilkie's role and his current scoring and everything he's doing, but then you've got the Jack Henry flag against Geelong at GMHBA, and you look at John Noble's matchup and what he can do in the ceiling he possesses, and then you look at the injury he sustained last week in the form of the Suns, and he's flipped roles here and there, and they've actually got a lot of scorers who, down back, the two Ewlands, for example. Mac Andrew finds a bit of the footy, John Noble. It's making this week really, really difficult. So I'm not sure we're going to answer too many questions here, unfortunately, tonight, but like, in terms of that Bulldogs matchup, they're the fourth best matchup for opposition designated kickers. And we saw Tom McCarthy last week. He went 123. Mills and Blakey in round 17, 117 and 112 respectively. But interesting. He's only played the Suns once since becoming, the Bulldogs once since becoming a Sun. That was a 108 last year in round 9. I just think, they're the questions for me is he going to be fit to play? I think that he should be fit. Like, I don't know. He kind of had that issue late with that corky, but I felt like they put him on ice just as a bit of a precaution against your boys there. So I feel like he should be okay. It's just, I'm not 100% confident in it because of all those things we've just mentioned.
Yeah, I'm actually more confident in one of the points of differences that you've got there in Nick Newman.
Me too. I think he's one of my locks.
Yeah, same with me.
Yeah, he's got the role, he's got the matchup, and he's got the past performances against the Pies. We know he had that big 120 against them earlier in the year where he was on nearly 100 points at halftime. And he's got the previous scores in 2024.
That game as well. Yeah, that's right. I remember that game. He was nearly done at halftime. I was hating it. I didn't have him.
Yeah. But he's also just racking as well. Like, even in his recent scores this season, he's had 129, 107, 126, and 128 in his last 4 games. So he's actually got really good form. He's got a good matchup. He's got the role. I really like Nick Newman. I'm pretty solid with him this week. And I agree, circling sort of back there too, I'm pretty confident with the Josh Dacos now. I wasn't at the start of the week because of that matchup for Carlton on paper, but having seen a couple other things happen at teams this week, the teams for tomorrow night, I'm actually, it's probably Dacos for me. It's Newman for me. Zorko, Wang, Witt, Ash, and then I've got to decide on that 7th. So Noble I'm not sold on. Wilkie I probably like more than a John Noble because I think like his role is a bit more certain. But an Archie Roberts, the interesting, I want to flag with an Archie Roberts there. That was a tough matchup last week. Number 1 hardest for the opposition defenders, but watching that live, second hardest matchup for designated kickers too. Watching it live, Charlie Cameron actually went to him after quarter time and was giving him a lot of attention. And you could actually see it. They weren't letting him run past for that cheap handball out the back. And he actually went to run past. I can't remember who it was at one stage. And I think Charlie belted him pretty hard. And he sort of went down and was a bit sore. And Charlie got right in his face. So they actually clearly put attention into Archie and didn't want to let him do that.
He started well.
Get that easy ball.
Roberts. He was on I think 35, 34, something like that at quarter time. So he was on track for a decent score. He just... But 34.
23 disposals. He had 18 kicks from 23 disposals, but only the 1 mark, which kind of speaks to the difficulty of that matchup. And they got absolutely trounced as well. So we also can't forget how many good forwards the Lions have. So I just think for me, I actually really liked what I saw in that game. And I know that probably wasn't as hot on Archie at the start of the week as maybe I was. I was probably a bit more keen on him. So I don't really mind an Archie Roberts. We know what he did against the Giants earlier this season. Hey, he had a 189,
huge,
an absolute massive game. But I don't know if we can expect that, particularly it's his second game back from that dislocated shoulder. He's come back, and I just think The right answer is probably we need to see it first. But if we've got question marks over players, like he's clearly the main player back there for them, how much can we trust the Bombers though?
We can't. We can't trust the Bombers. But I feel like Roberts is someone that in GameDay Squad, this is the sort of play that you go for, right? You go for the upside play. Like I'd rather go for, I think, Roberts this week, who's got the ability to rack up in a better matchup without attention. It's his second game back from injury, so he's got that first game at the way.
Yeah.
I expect them to play a little bit better. Like they played better in that last quarter against Brisbane, so I'm not expecting them to win or anything like that, right? But I'm expecting them to play a little bit better than that. They did beat the Giants, I believe. Did they beat the Giants? Or they certainly got very close if they didn't beat them in the end. So I feel like they'll take a little bit of confidence out of that last quarter that they had last time. The Giants still got over the line by 14 points. I just haven't looked. But they were leading for a fair bit of that game. So they were sort of right in it. So I feel like Roberts gets, as you said, gets that tension. He had 10 touches in the first quarter, 13 after quarter time. And obviously they struggled really as a whole. So just got a bit of confidence. He bounces back and we see a decent score from him.
Yeah, I'm liking that as well, talking through it. And we know he's that key ball user down there for them too. Just the one, the flag. I'll just move that down here. So he obviously had that really big game last week there against the Tigers. And I actually thought, I probably didn't mention him last week because I actually thought he didn't have a ceiling. Like having seen him this year, that was my thing with Jake Bauer. It's like he's a solid pick. He'll be pretty good. And
that's why I didn't play him as well.
I think he was down to the week or two before, but I just went, he just doesn't have the ceiling. Whereas I felt some other picks like a Caleb Daniel, he had the ceiling, for example. But yeah, we'll see what happens when you make those calls. Hey, like Bowie's the one that puts up the big 159. So this week here, so he had that, the highest score, before that 159 was a 120. That was his highest score. And I think that was one of his first game back as well for this season.
Yeah.
Now, North Melbourne, they're not the matchup to target this season. However, when I mentioned to Jacos, North have actually shifted a little bit recently in terms of that matchup data for opposition defenders and those designated kickers. Before Jacos last week, I said, it's actually, for the season, it's not great, but actually recently it's shifted. It's actually more of a positive matchup than anything. So they are the fourth hardest for the season, but they're actually currently, they've shifted to a positive one. They're the second best matchup for designated kickers, and Jacos obviously helps that from last week after he put up that massive 168. So if you're liking a Jake Bowie, I think like that North Melbourne, they've been pretty good recently for those defenders, so you can definitely go there. I'm probably not going there myself. I don't know. I didn't pick him last week, so I kind of feel if I go there this week, it's a bit more points chasing, but he should be pretty good down there again this week if you do like a Jake Bowie.
Yeah. No, I agree. I fully agree. That's, I didn't think he had a ceiling either. That's why I didn't play him. And when you look at the weather as well, like you think no ceiling and no wet weather, and the wet weather, I thought it was going to be a low score, but turns out high score of the season. So sometimes fantasy doesn't make sense. Like the other thing I was going to say, just with fantasy not making sense, Sam Walsh, I had a look. So his high score before last week, obviously he had a good score last week, but his high score was against Freo, who are red matchup, one of the toughest matchups for kids. But his two lower scores are against Richmond Essendon. So like sometimes you do all the research, but fantasy just doesn't play nice for you. It goes that way.
And it's been such a challenging season, given that as well. Before we move on there, mate, what about a Wayne Millerer for your boys against the Swans at the SCG? What are your thoughts on a Wayne Millerer? Because I haven't thought about him too much this week myself personally.
No, not against Sydney at the SCG. I'm probably not looking towards him. And I like a few. We're going to talk about obviously Dawson and Rankin here anyway. But would it shock you if James Jordan went to Wayne Miller instead off of halfback? Because Wayne Miller is very important to the Crows in terms of it might not be the highest averaging defender in fantasy. He's having a very, very good year, mind you. But I feel like Rankin and Dawson can go forward and play in the midfield, and Miller obviously is at halfback. So I feel like it's easier to shut him down than shut a Rankin and a Dawson down. So I'm just intrigued to see. I'm assuming that they still tag Rankin, but just with the chance of attention for Miller along with the SCG and Sydney, it's not really the matchup I want to be playing along with. But however, keep them on your radar for the next few weeks because the Crows have got Richmond, Essendon back-to-back weeks coming up. I believe after they've got Collingwood next week, than those two easy matchups. So he's going to be someone I'm sure you boys will be talking about.
Yeah, and obviously Rory Laird, unfortunately, is injured too. So
I want to talk about.
He's going to have more of the footy. I know. Sorry to bring it up there, mate. Yeah, and on that too, we'll talk about Jordan Dawson in a second, and obviously Isaac Rankin. I'd be surprised if they actually sent a James Jordan to a Wayne Miller. Personally, I think it's pretty clearly Jordan Dawson, and then
I agree. The
risk of an Isaac Rankin, which I'm not loving for my forward line. So I would be shocked. We also saw Bailey Dale go massive against the Swans at the SCG, but how much of that is Bailey Dale just being the main ball user for the Bulldogs versus Wayne Miller, who it's Miller, it's Worrell, it's Mark Keane, for example. He can rack a little bit too.
Back as well, Hawker
yeah,
Hahn,
Hugo Hawker-Hahn, that's a good one. Yeah, he'll get a few points back there too. So I think just given that fact, and there may be less points going around in the back line in a difficult matchup, it's probably going to be a really good game as well. It's going to be two good teams just going head-to-head. I just don't love picking players in that. And a good example was the Swans and the Dockers last week over in the West. I was keen to avoid that game, and I'm pretty glad I did, given some of those scores. So that's kind of where I sit on it. I don't hate it. That's why he's not a clear avoid for me, but I'm just not really keen on it.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there.
Alrighty, now let's move on to our mids. And before we do, we've got Jackie Boy in the chat. G'day, Jackie Boy. Just found our live stream. Get amongst it. And Michael Cossey as well reckons the ball will be down the end for the Bombers a fair bit. I'm sure it will. And I'm sure Roberts will rack too. So let's hope so. Let's hope he does, because it's great to see him just being a pig for us down there.
Yeah, exactly. I saw Auntie Boogers. I saw Auntie Boogers comment there saying, "I've been burnt too many times not listening to you guys. He's out." For a split second, Auntie Booger was saying that I've been burnt too many times. I'm not listening to you guys. He's out. So it's just funny the way I read that, because on my screen it's got like not listening to you guys on the different line. So that was just quite funny there, being Auntie Booger. But I know Auntie Booger was not. I knew Auntie Booger was.
No, Auntie Booger doesn't listen to us. Auntie Booger doesn't listen to us because they keep playing the Cats. They keep playing Jezza, and then they took Auntie Booger. Took Jezza out last week, and he has one of his best games for a while. Unfortunately, got injured. But that's where fantasy doesn't make sense, because you go, right, I'm going to take Jezza out, and then he just pulls that really good game just out of that role change. And yeah, you can't pick those ones. Hey, that's fantasy. That's why we play it. Yeah. But yeah, those plug and plays there on screen: Dacos, Dawson, Bont, Smith, and Heaney. And obviously Zach Butters is injured, so that's really disappointing. Cinders Moses, there's talk he's maybe played his last game in the teal, so I know Cal's going to be quite disappointed if that's actually the case. So if we're looking out of that there, let's talk about, and yeah, Auntie Booger Jezza. Jezza is out. That's disappointing. But at least you don't have that tough decision. Do you pick a Jezza or not this week? That's taken care for you. And hopefully Jezza's back too, because we want to see him back, particularly when we get to the finals.
As well, actually. He was looking pretty good with his kicking back there. So.
Yeah, he's always looked good when he's pushed up the ground. But
he's always had one of the best field kicks in, like for a big key for particularly.
Yeah.
And I think just in general. So yeah, hopefully Jezza is back soon.
You want to see the best players right at the big time of year, hey? So what about a Dawson there? So I'm pretty happy with a Dacos against Carlton. I'm pretty happy with a Bont against the Suns, a Bailey Smith against the Saints, but the Heaney and the Dawson, I've got a Dawson in my side, and Heaney's probably the one I'm tossing up. What are you thinking of those two there? Is it as simple as just picking them? Or could you maybe chase some of those better options on the screen? Because we've got a couple Lions who have a great matchup. We've got a couple Giants who have a great matchup. I'm actually pretty keen on a Nando, and I think that Haz is exactly the same. What are your thoughts there for a Heaney and a Dawson in that matchup where we've got two really good teams just going toe-to-toe at the SCG?
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of good options this week. I've struggled to fit them all into my side this week. Dawson, I'm fairly comfortable with. For one, I've got the. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I've got a prize card of Dawson, so he's pretty much in my side every single week, just with the value. But
pat yourself on the back. That's a great card to have.
So I think I see Jordan going more to, not his namesake. I see him going more to a Rankin than Dawson. I just feel like Dawson, if he goes to Dawson will just go up forward. He'll go into defence. He'll float wherever he wants. Rankin a bit the same as well. That's why I did float the flag of Miller. Just I was thinking about it going well. Jordan has done these half-back tags in the past. Sydney lost last week. Jordan Clark actually had a pretty good game. So I just wonder. But I just think Jordan Dawson's someone that the tag doesn't affect him. So I'm just playing him. He's got the ceiling. I don't want to be without him. And I feel like Heaney's just been. I don't okay. Peatley might try to go to him. I don't think Crows are going to really take him too much because Heaney again is very much like Dawson, can just go forward if need be. So I feel like Heaney's been so consistently getting tons all year that he's an option. But in saying that, we've got Neil, Ashcroft, Oliver, Callahan, Nando, Brayshaw, Goulden. Like there's so many options that we have that just because they have been good all year doesn't mean that he has to be in. So yeah, Heaney's the one I have considered as well. I feel like the other guys I'm pretty comfortable picking at the moment. And you could make an argument that Will Ashcroft's in the plug and plays at the moment the way he's playing. So I feel like he's probably one that I've got in there. Are you know, where do you sit with Heaney? I think you are on the same page, though, right? You're Dawson. You're just backing him in, but is Heaney the one that you're tossing up?
Yeah, and I don't quite know why, to be honest. Like the scores, if you actually go back through it, Dawson probably has really good scoring there recently. Like Heaney's recent ones, he's had 100, 126, a 142 in round 16, 111, 131. Like there's no reason not to be picking him. So he'll probably feature somewhere in my squads, but yeah, I don't know. I just maybe it's the matchup. I think from memory, I looked at this before. His scoring recently, like his last couple against the Crows, kind of signifies what he could probably do. Like he can have a really booming score, or he could sort of just have a pretty average score for the midfield. His last two, he's had 98 in round 12 last year against them, and then 156 in 2024. So it's a really hard one to leave out, but just based on maybe some current form, Errol Goulden's back in the side. Maybe does that have an effect in terms of the points that's there to go around in a matchup against the Crows? And I think I was chatting to him about this today. He was saying that the Crows are actually, they've typically been a pretty good matchup this year to target for your mids, but they've been a bit more restrictive recently. He had that note when talking about Errol Goulden. Yeah, they've been a neutral matchup for opposition mids this season, but over the past 5 weeks, they're the third most restrictive teams for mids to score against. So maybe that's something too, because we talked about the Dockers last week being really difficult. We didn't want to target that matchup, and he got a 100. Maybe it's a similar case again, but it is at the SCG, so that's the thing to consider. So I think for me, Heaney's not in my side at this point in time, and I'm probably going to look towards someone who has a bit more of a ceiling. Not saying he doesn't, but in a better matchup potentially, like a Neil or an Ashcroft. So out of those there on screen, and in fact, I'll ask you that now. So out of your couple Lions, your couple Giants, or Nando, for example, I'm going to ask you which one of those you're liking the most, or which couple. And before you do, Maxi Hansen as well in the chat. G'day, Maxi Hansen. He's killing it across leaderboards too, particularly in that starter and contender comp. We could nearly make a 23 out of mids this week. There's way too many good options. Yeah. And it scares me because it's like, they're coming to the pointy end of the year, and if you just pick the one wrong over the other, like a Merritt last week, it can be some pretty big swings. So who are you liking to help finish out our midfield?
Well, just think about that with scars. I said Caleb Daniel was my scar, but I played Merritt and I played a gold, so he'd actually be my scar. I actually forgot. Because he was that bad, I put it out of my mind that I didn't start him, and I said he wasn't there. But I forgot he was actually there, so he gets my scar for the week. So so Caleb Daniel actually had a really good game compared to Zach Merritt. I got Will Ash.
Sorry, just before we do, check out this. Corey Blackledge. Parker, he likes for mid, but can't see himself going there. Yeah, again, that's a good matchup for them. We mentioned that in the defenders about Caleb Daniel. Caleb Sarong, yeah, if I've got Brayshaw on screen, you've got to talk about a Caleb Sarong in the same matchup. We've got Hord Francis and Zachy Butters out. Maxi Hansen, Max Holmes. Yes, Max Holmes. He's another one that's floated in and out of my sides and someone I'm pretty confident with.
Yeah, Ed Richards. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
There's too many to actually pick from, and they all have pretty good things going for them. So finding it really tough. So sorry, mate, throw it back to you.
Yeah, so Will Ashcroft's the one for me that he's there. Like if anyone gets attention, it's Lockie Neal, which is if we're looking for players we want to pick in GDS, we want the guys that don't get attention and can rack up the pill. And Will Ashcroft is that guy. Crazy. The last 2 games of football, I think he's had 5 shots at goal in each game, or 4 shots a week before. It's something crazy. So he's in there for me. And I like Finn Callahan in this matchup. So I feel like this matchup for Oliver could still go well, and I still like the matchup. I could still see me picking both of them in this matchup, but I've just got this thing that, and I don't know if you sort of subscribe to this as well, that when a player gets attention, like really hard, like he did, like Mullen was on him for 3.5 quarters. The reason that Callahan was able to save that score and get to near a ton I think he got like a did Callahan get like a 90 odd
90,
score last week?
95 or 98 thereabouts on GDS.
Yeah, just having a look here. Yeah, 96. Yep. So sort of right there near the ton. But I always like to think, well, when they get that harder tag, when they've got the freedom the week after, they go big. And if there's a good matchup coming, is there a better matchup at the moment than Eston for mids? Like, he could go absolutely huge this week. So he's in for me. It's just whether I put Oliver in there as well. It's probably like, I think Dacos, as we said, is in for us both. Baz, Dawson, Bont, is Will Ashcroft, is he in for you as well?
He is, yeah.
Yep, so we got him there. And then I like Callahan, so I got one spot. So I'm tossing up Heaney, Neil, Oliver, and Anderson. They're probably like the guys I'm tossing up. And I also don't mind a Brayshaw or a Goulden this week. It's just, who do you go? Like, that's what I mean. Like, there's too many good options. So,
yeah, and I think that's where maybe we do look at the matchups. I just find that Port Adelaide one with an Andy Bray, it's like, we're going a bit speculative on that, going, they're going to be depleted through there. And I know that I find if this was at Optus, I'd be more keen on it personally. But we have to talk about him given the changes we're going to see through that midfield. So, yeah, he could be there.
It seemed huge, by the way, Brayshaw. This is the sort of matchup where I feel like he could really wax and really get on the end of a few. So, like...
Well, he had 93 last week against the Swans in that top-of-the-table clash. But before that, in his last three, he's had 111, 151, and 148. And they've actually been giving up some points too. We saw what the Saints did last week, 145 for Naz, but he's almost in his own boat. So if you look at Philippo, he had 128 from low time on ground. Garcia, 121. The week before, Sheasel and Aldi, you cashed in with scores of 179 and 128. So there probably should be some scores there. He doesn't have amazing form against the power in recent games. But I guess we're probably picking him this week if you are looking at that depleted Port side and trying to target that. I think if you're going a Sarong or a Brayshaw, I think it nearly has to be Brayshaw. Just got to be
Brayshaw,
yeah. I would feel I wouldn't feel great picking a Caleb Sarong just with what he's shown this year. Although you know what you get when you pick a Docker mid, there is the chance the other one scores more. So that is the risk. But the matchup is there. The one thing I want to flag with those Giants mids, I don't know why, but I don't really want to go and like double down on both this week. I was keen to double down.
I feel the same.
I was keen to double down on both lines. I felt I was pretty confident with what I was going to see at the Gabba. I'm not as confident with what I'm going to see from the Giants, probably just given what the Giants are like versus a Brisbane. They're not the same team. And even if you look back to their last matchup, which was in round, when did they play? That would have been round 9. Round 9 that was. So
10, somewhere in there, yeah.
Clary had a 95 against them. And then Finn Callahan had a 111. So the scoring this year against them isn't amazing. Like, they haven't had those huge games, but I guess maybe the Bombers, they might be a different side.
I think last few weeks that they're giving, it's just like the floodgates have opened. Like, they're just giving up. Like, look at what the Saints did the week before. Like, it was all of Hill, Hall, and Naz all went well over 160. Like, nuts. It was very reminiscent of the people remember last year when LDU, Tristan Sherry, and Sheasel all went like 160 plus against Richmond. So it was a bit like that. And I could you see a repeat of Callahan, Whitfield, and Ash all going big? So I feel like last week we were probably looking at the two mids from Brisbane, and I was looking at one defender from Brisbane as well. So I looked at Jazorka and then the two mids. I feel like it's flipped this week. I feel like it's two defenders from the Giants, one midfielder from the Giants. It's probably where I agree, probably where I've landed as well. And I feel like Callahan, this matchup probably suits more. Like Oliver next week against Sydney, I think that could be actually a decent matchup for him. Yeah. Whereas I feel like this week it's Callahan that could go well.
I feel like Callahan will cash in on this sort of matchup versus a Clayton Oliver. That's kind of my thinking there. And maybe it's similar to last week. We mentioned a Neil and an Ashcroft. I was like, they're the players that will cash in on that really juicy, soft matchup. And a Josh Dunkley we had on as a pod last week. And then Haz and I discussed, I was like, it's just not a Josh Dunkley game. He's just not going to get involved in that really easy stuff, the +7s, the goals, all that sort of stuff that the other boys do. And that's exactly what we kind of saw. And I just get the feeling if you're picking a Giants mid, me personally, I'm going a Finn Callahan. but you have to talk about the both, given the form they've had this year. So I reckon Finn Callaghan is one of your best mids in the game, and he will be in the coming years. So I think if you're picking one for me, it's a Finn Callaghan. It's just how you fit them in, I guess, because I really like a Noah Anderson as well against the Doggies. They're the second easiest matchup for opposition mids to score against in the last 5 weeks. They're allowing just a tick under 100 GDS points on average. And some of the scores they've had, Dersma and Harley Reid, they had 105 and 103. We saw Heaney, Warner, and Goulden, 126, 113, 111. Garcia had a 152. Dawson had a 183. There's some big scores on the Doggies recently, and back at home, I'm feeling more confident with this Noah Anderson pick. I know he was down last week, a bit disappointing. He had 111 GDS points, so it's probably not the worst. That's probably a solid game. You'd want more though, and a 97 the week before. You just feel like he's been down a tiny bit, but
he saved them as well. By the way, he's had in excess of 45 points in both those last quarters. So Gold Coast.
They're very hard to trust.
Anderson's the one. If I was going to trust anyone from the Gold Coast, it's him. But I feel like the thing that worries me with Anderson, just when's it going to end in terms of he gets so much cheap ball. Like it's insane how much cheap ball that if anyone remembers that Collingwood game where he racked up, Gold Coast were trying to win that game. And he was getting these little these plus sevens around the half back line when they need to get the ball forward, and they were meaningless disposals. So we remember, if we go back to the Freo guys to talk about before with Ryan and Clark, when Justin Longmuir came out and said like people just trying to pad their stats and play for themselves. So you sort of feel like Anson's not trying to play for himself, but if Dimmer's sort of saying like, Nando, we don't need you to get all this crap ball at halfback, we need you delivering inside 50 or through the middle of the ground. I just worry with that. But in saying that, he's the captain. He's still trying his heart out, and he works hard to get back into defence regardless if it's cheap ball or not. So Doggy's great matchup. I think he can go really well. It's just, I guess, when you're trying to split hairs, when we've got 50,000 good options in defence, in midfield, sorry, that's probably where I'm probably just a little bit, I just got a flag at some point that it may stop, but who knows?
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. I do think the Doggies are a bit depleted as well, which is something that I sort of like when I'm looking at a matchup. I know the midfield's still pretty consistent with what it has been, or mostly with Ed Richards and your Bontempelli, for example. Kennedy rolls through there. Like, they're pretty similar. I know the ruck is different with the Tim English out. They've rolled a Rory Lobb through there. I don't know. It's really. I'm not sure if that's been confirmed yet or not.
You have a look at the
I don't know.
I wasn't sure
if he
was.
Noah Anderson.
I know that English was out just as a test. So it says him and Sanders have to pass fitness test later in the week. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Errol, would you go in Errol?
Love Errol. I love Errol. One of my favourite players that doesn't play for the Crows. I still remember that article that the Crows were looking at him, but he decided to stay at Sydney. So thanks, Errol. I was impressed with what I saw last week. I know that a few people sort of still haven't been quite on board yet, but his tog was back up 89%, which is what we want to see. Like, it's gone up every single week. So I think it's going to settle around that mid to high 80s for the rest of the year. He's someone that's got an incredible tank, regardless how much football he misses. 123 points last week, but that was against one of the toughest matchups going around in Freo, over in Perth as well. Gave away a couple of free kicks in that matchup. So that's obviously the -2. But there was one where Isaac Heaney missed him for an easy chip that would have been a +7. And then he actually got caught holding the ball. So that's 9 points right there. Sort of just 9-point turnaround that's just gone begging. So you look at that, that's a 130, if not for that. And a few things go his way, a few extra marks here and there. He's getting a 140. So he got a 123 last week. So I feel like this isn't quite the week I'm going to play him in my GDS squad. But if you're looking for a pod, I think he's back. So I think he can go there with a bit more confidence. Okay, the role's not exactly ideal compared to the other guys here, but Errol is a different beast when it comes to fantasy scoring when he's up and about. And if those CBAs can, I think they were mid 40s to high 40s last week, if they can go to the mid 50s to low 60s% CBAs moving forward, I'd be pretty keen to start him more often than not, and he'd be a plug and play. But yeah, I just want to see a tiny bit more service. But I was impressed with what I saw last week.
Definitely. Well, he showed he can score in a tougher matchup. And, the Crows, again, like I mentioned before, they have been, that third most restrictive team in the past 5 weeks for opposition mids to score against. So it is another tough matchup, although it's at the SCG, and his last two against the Crows have been 116 and 151. So again, it probably doesn't help you make a decision, but it's someone you definitely have to look at. I like, again, I know he's not on screen. The other couple to mention there are Max Holmes and an Ed Richards there. In terms of a Max Holmes, his last two against the Saints down at the Cattery, 145 and 114. That 145 was last year in round 19 itself. So I feel like he's kind of building in this back half of the year as well. He's getting more time through that midfield. I find it hard to leave him out. He's only had 2 scores under 100 this season. And we know
just doesn't have that ceiling. Doesn't have that consistent 140 odd ceiling that we want in our midfielders. So hasn't shown it. But in saying that, Saints at GMHBA, great for defenders because obviously Holmes is playing a defensive role more so now. So it sounds like it'll be good for us because we had to pick him as defender next year in GS, which is what we were able to do last year. And we were able to plug him in a lot of weeks. But this year in the mids, you just hate when those defenders and forwards get mid status in GDS because they're probably, unless you're one of the top guys there, you just sort of not quite up there. Whereas I think like Sheasel next year will probably be just a mid, but he's different beast. We'll probably be still picking him regardless of where he
like a Baz.
So.
Yeah, when he had that role, that position change as well. Bailey Smith went from a forward to a mid as well. It's probably a similar sort of thing there with the Shees.
Just picked him anyway. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then Zachy Merritt, avoiding a Zachy Merritt. Again,
not going near that.
You can't, and it's not a knock on the player himself. Like we know Zach Merritt's been one of the best fantasy players, over the past 10 years, but it's just a shame sort of what that Bomber side is looking like, and we can't really trust.
What did you see? You were there live. Did you?
And I
didn't
get see a lot.
I
saw a lot of Lions goals, and that was it.
I just saw a couple of contests where
it wasn't a Zach Merritt sort of.
I don't want to quite say checked out just yet because I guess we'll see this week. If he has checked out, he'll have another poor game. But if he's like heard the talk or whatever, and he could go. This honestly could go one or two. Is if you want the pod this week, I feel like Merritt could be a pod where he's boom or bust. Like sometimes you talk about that in fantasy terms, right? He is the typical boom or bust this week. He's either going to respond in a big way and go really well, or he's going to go really bad again.
Here's this, right? Has actually, he was at the game as well, and he did some research for the bids this week, and he's put a few things he observed in the notes. He said, what do we got here? He said he saw Merritt warming up with the mids and thought to himself he could be in for a big game because the Lions have been a good matchup for mids recently, like we mentioned. And he watched him go straight into that first centre ball up, and he said he could not figure out what happened after that. He said he had only 21% CBAs for the game. He played mainly as a half forward, and there was one point that the Bombers didn't have enough mids in the centre bounce, and instead of running in there, Merritt turned around to see who was going to go in instead, and he avoided it at all costs. He looked so disinterested. So he said it's not so much about the matchup; it's more about his role in the team that he plays for, and sort of what that looks like. So
that sounds like checking out because he's unhappy with the coach where he's been playing, and also he sees a better horizon next year, possibly. So you're probably just off of him until you see a better score. And I'm sure next year, if he is in different colours, we'll be probably talking about him a lot.
Yeah.
But I feel like, we're just avoiding up until we see something at least change there.
Yep, I think it's a smart thing to do. All right, Rucks. Let's have a look here. Well, these will go a bit quicker, I reckon, the Rucks. The picks.
This is an easy week for me. I don't know about you. This is...
Yeah, Gawn, Marshall, Grundy. I think of the three you can legitimately be picking. I think the maybe is the Darcy Cameron, who has another positive matchup there against the Blues, and who knows if Pitt will be back. They were rolling with, who was it? I can't remember the ruckman.
Flynn Riley, I think his name
was. Riley.
I didn't even realise he was playing. I thought Pitt was in there, and I saw Flynn Riley. I'm like, who's this new guy I didn't see that was debuting, and he was rucking. I was like, Pitt on the team? I'm like, no, okay, well, that's interesting, but...
Yeah, so he might be the maybe if you wanted to go a different way. It was good to see him get back to a bit of form last week up against X. But I think this week the avoids, I think you're just not going near a Luke Jackson or a Tristan Sherry. I think Luke Jackson up against the power. That's Big Jordan Sweet. He's been quite restricted to opposition rucks. We mentioned last week, has brought this up, that Luke Jackson's been really goal reliant, and he said he's been getting to scraping to that 100 or just under, and he's been kicking 2 or 3 goals to get there. Last week, he didn't kick a goal in that tough matchup, and he dropped an 84. So I think Luke Jackson I find really difficult to pick this week, even though Sean Darcy may be out like he was last week. So I'm probably not looking at a Luke Jackson personally. A Tristan Sherry up against Max Gawn, I'm avoiding that. That is his worst matchup for his career. And he hasn't had great scores in those last few, 65, 101, and 114. Last week, his role was back, though. He was the number one man.
So he's a big watch this week, to see if this is something moving forward.
I wouldn't be confident picking him this week based off seeing that, knowing he's coming into a Max Gawn matchup. I think I would like to see it again, and I would be avoiding this matchup anyway. Like, even if he sort of has been hitting those really big scores, this is probably just one you don't pick a Tristan Cherry for anyway. I think you'd pick a Max Gawn instead because we know how good Gawny is. So I'm pretty happy with those two avoids. Do you sort of agree with what I'm thinking with the avoids there in the maybe?
Yeah. No, not for Jackson this week, just against Port. And Cherry is a big watch, but not picking him this week. You're watching him to see, is the CBAs still up? Is the TOG still up? Because normally we hear after someone's had a good game, they go, oh, they were struggling with injury, right? But we heard this before, like we heard about the groin soreness he's dealing with all season. And then all of a sudden that night that we hear it, he goes bang, and he goes absolutely massive. Looks back to the Tristan Cherry that we pick him every week for, right? The high CBAs, the high tackles, the disposals, everything, right? So big watch. If he can go well against Gawn this week, TOG's up, CBAs are up, I'll be more confident that's saying moving forward, and he'll be someone that you can plug and play. But for me, I'm just locked in on like my number one ruck this week is Ryan Marshall. I just think this is like put salary. Like I've got as much as I can put in classic. I've got a platinum on there. I just think he's about to go. We saw Briggsy last year, and I like how you've gone Sunday half a star, not the Sunday star. There because you couldn't quite find a ruck that was really good on the Sunday.
Superstar, but he's half a star.
Yeah, I like half a star. I saw the cheeky one there. But Marshall just like Briggsy went really big against John last week, and we know what even Luke Jackson did against them as well.
Yeah,
it's just Marshall. We know when Marshall is the solo ruck, he's an absolute beast. He's the best scoring player, I think, in almost all of fantasy because he gets you 20 hit outs. He gets you over 20 touches. He gets you some marks. He gets you some tackles, and he might kick you a goal. He just fills every single stat line. So I think he's up there with the Sheezes, the Dacosses, the Bazes, those types of guys at the very top when he's solo ruck. So for me, he's absolutely locked in, and I think Gawn, just as a solo guy, is locked in as well. So I just felt they're the two guys that I'm locking in, to be honest.
Yep. In terms of a Rowan Marshall there, like you said, mate, like obviously TDK being out, he still hasn't been named for tomorrow night. So it's all go. It's like for me, it was just kind of going, oh, geez, I hope TDK doesn't come in. And as soon as I saw that before, I was like, I did exactly the same as you, mate. Platinum in Classic. I actually packed a diamond last year at the end of last season because I started my GDS journey sort of around this time last year during those mid-season buys. And he was one of those.
Is that going to prime time, or is that going into a champion or challenger?
Challenger. My goal, I need to get back into the top 20 because I feel like I've got the cards now to actually go okay. I've got 12th last week, and I made some silly late changes that probably cost me an even better finish. Anyway, I always do that, but I said I've got to stop changing my team late, so I've got to stop that this week. But yeah, I've got a Diamond Royal Marshall. I'll put him in Challenger. I'm really keen. His last four against the Cats, 119, 162, 156, 134.
Huge.
He can replicate anything like that. He's going to be incredible.
Yeah. Gawn, he's just the other guy. Like Grundy, like you could. McHenry's been a sneaky tough matchup this year for rucks. Like he hasn't been restrictive too much, but in terms he just doesn't allow big ceilings against him. Like no one really goes big.
He's quite athletic.
Yeah, and for me, he's been one of the, I'm not saying this as a Crows fan, I think he's been one of the pickups of the year, to be honest, considering when you look at, you got Crows gone for free, and he's been a top 5 ruck for the major stats for all years. He's pretty impressive effort in your first year. But yeah, I just feel like a bit of a 50-50 game in that one there, or I hope it is a 50-50 game as a Crows fan. I just probably, going Marshall, definitely, Gawn, and I think I'm going Gawn as well. I just feel like with Darcy Cameron that as you said, he's the maybe, but I just thought that matchup last week was sort of made for him. Like him and Cherry were just like tapping it down, some would tackle, another ball up. The same thing would happen again. It was repeat stoppages.
I wonder if X's TOG and his role, like the reason why they went with him as that number one ruck last week was because of that matchup. I wonder how much of that went into it. Like they might have thought Darcy Cameron, they might have assessed X and Darcy Cameron in terms of those ball ups in terms of being quite similar, and they thought X could get him around the ground. So maybe that's why. And this week against the Gorn, they actually might go back to rolling with two rucks, and it could just revert back. That was my thinking. I just thought, I wonder how much of that, and I guess that's why I've got Tristan Cherry as the avoid. I just thought I had to put Cameron in there. If he showed that last week against an X, and they're coming up against again a pretty good matchup there in Carlton, in that who've got that VFL ruckman. We saw Lloyd Meek last week as the number one man. He went 138 GDS points. So why I have him there is just the maybe. I'm not going to go there personally in a main comp. Actually, I'm not going to go there in any comp. I'll have him in AFL Fantasy Classic. So I have him somewhere. But that's not by choice. But
you said the maybe.
Somewhere.
There's another maybe as well. Like you mentioned him as well. Like Lloyd Meek is a bit of a pod against Richmond.
Number one man.
Well.
Yep.
He's like Reeves is out again. So if you want a pod, I'd almost rather Meek this week.
Yeah, that's a very fair call. So we've actually seen, well, there were a number of rucks last week that actually went pretty well. We had Meek, we had Cameron, we had X, we had Briggs, obviously Grundy. Oh no, sorry, Grundy didn't do too well. It was Gorn and Marshall. So
yeah,
there were heaps of really good rucks. Maybe it could be similar again. So yeah, I don't mind the Lloyd Meek shout as well, but yeah, it's in one of those comps you're prioritising. I think it has to be a Marshall and a Gorn.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Alrighty, mate. This is where it's going to get probably even trickier, unfortunately. I'm probably not as confident on our forwards this week, so it's interesting to see what you think. Our plug and plays. Now, it's funny because I kind of contradict myself here, and I don't know if this is too spicy. Cozzy Pickett has been a plug and play, and I think he probably should stay as a plug and play, but I actually think he could be an avoid this week.
He's not North in my spot either. I'm the same, and I love Cozzy, but he's on the same as well.
I don't feel great about it. And it's disappointing because he's such a good player. I love watching him. We know how good he's going to be, but I just feel like he is such an obvious tag target for a Finn O'Sullivan. And Finn O'Sullivan kept Nick Dacos to a 118 last week, and we've seen what he's done. He's blanketed some of the best players in the comp, such as a Zach Merritt. I just really am worried about this one, that he could get tagged out of this game and it could be another 50 or 60, because he's kind of shown that this year he's been a bit up and down in some of those games, although he's been solid. And in fact, I actually went and had a look at a couple of those games where he had been tagged. There's where are we? Cozzy Pickett. So he's had tagged by Peatling, round 15, score of 63. Tagged by Hoff in round 9, scored 72. And other tags haven't been as effective. So Ed Allen in round 13, 139.
He went well against Jordan as well.
Jordan tagged in round 8, 119. So it's funny. We've got some data that suggests you could play still, and we've got some data that suggests you could probably avoid. And I'm probably leaning towards the camp avoiding just because it's Finn O'Sullivan. Maybe if it was another tagger in another team, I'd probably play him. But I think this one, I'm actually pretty keen to avoid. His last 4 games, 91, 124, 63, 169. He's kind of showing us he's actually more up and down.
Roller coaster.
So maybe we question him as a plug and play. I still think he's one of the best forwards in the game, and that's why he's still there. But I just think this is one I'm probably keen to avoid and pick a few other options this week.
It's a perfect play in GDS. If you get anyone that's going to get any sort of attention, you fade them, because there's other options to pick, and we've got to have other options to pick. Like She's just a plug and play every single week, and he's probably one you put salary on your side because of how good he is. But yeah, Cozzy for me, I love, and as you said, you love Cozzy. I love Cozzy. People know and watch our channel know how much I love Cozzy. But yeah, this week I'm nervous. Foss this week, then he gets Mullen next week, so it's like it's back to back brutal weeks. So you want to be able to avoid. I think that for the next couple of weeks. But obviously, yep, he's someone that could burn you. But at the same time, I don't see him putting up a ceiling score in either of the next 2 matchups. Okay, yep, he could still go 90 to 100, 110. I don't see anything over 120 coming. Like let you watch him play like deep forward kick 5 and still score like a 120, right? That's what's going to happen. We don't play him, but I'm with you. I'm fading. So particularly when you've got look at the pods there. Like you've got your McDonald's and Ginnivans against Essendon, who against Richmond, who obviously great matchup there. You got even his teammate Tom Sparrow against North. Could see that would be the play to go for. Then you got Toby Green against the Bombers, De Goey against Carlton, and Dak Bailey against West Coast. So they're all
there's more.
There's
more. You've got Shea Bolton and Murphy Reid up against the Power, and I don't know, this might be crazy. And I know we've talked about you can't trust the Suns, but Petrarca, I don't know. I know people are
I've
saying,
had the same thought. Dogs this week, good matchup.
yeah, they're
Response
like,
after a
I
bad
know we should
one.
be avoiding. His role's not there. He's playing, I think over 70% of his time forward of the ball. But I just want to raise something. Here are his last 4 games, Christian Petrarca. 79, 96, 64, and 96. The two 96s, they were at People First Stadium, and he's back there again this weekend. The Doggies are the second best matchup for opposition forwards in the past 3 weeks, and they're the third best matchup for this season. We know they're depleted. There's no Bailey Dale. It'll be interesting to see what their backline sort of looks like. And I just feel like this could be one where he still goes good regardless. CBA's got a little bump last week, back up to 31% from 24%, so it's marginal. He's still in there at times. In terms of that midfield matchup, they're also, like we spoke about with Anando, they're the 4th best matchup this season, 2nd best for inside mids in the past 5 games, and they're Petrarca's 3rd favourite matchup for his whole career. So for me,
don't talk me into it, mate.
I don't want to because he's been terrible, but I said to Haz, I said, Petrarca, and he goes, "You're kidding." And I was like, "Oh, maybe." And then I sent him a message 5 minutes later, and I was like, "I'm actually pretty convinced on the Petrarca." But no, I'm not. I've got to think rationally. He's under the blanket for me. I'm genuinely considering. I'm going to show my contender side in a second. He's in there. He might not be at the end of this episode. He might be out, but he'll be somewhere because I just feel like this could be one where he actually goes okay.
Yeah, nah.
It's risky.
He doesn't have a ceiling either. Even if he goes well,
handball happy. Hasn't looked good either. He's looked really poor. And so have the Suns. And like you said, it's hard to trust them.
You look at him now and you go, why did you trade for Petrarca? Like, you already had Nat Anderson, you already had Matt Rao, you already had Toot Miller, you had Buddy Humphrey, who you wanted to keep. I sort of, and yes, I'm a Crows fan. Petrarca, he would have fitted. I think he would have fitted much. And I'm not saying it's a Crows fan. I still feel like we would have fitted better in the Crows, just for what the Crows are lacking. And I think it would have been a better fantasy option if he was at the Crows. But unfortunately, the Gold Coast is just too many mouths to feed. And it was all sunshine and rainbows at the start of the year, whereas now it's not as good, and now it's not particularly the best place to be, I don't think, at the moment.
Yeah, and look, as long as I don't mind if what Petrarca does, but as long as Zach Bailey doesn't go to your mob, I'm happy. And now Brad Hill, not on screen.
He's in my squad. He's in my squad.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I was trying to wonder, like, we've just talked about him so much. We know how good the role is. His form recently, like, he's been picking it up. We know Sinclair's not there. He's a lock, Arnie Booger. So put Brad Hill in your side. You'll see him in now contender sides later on. I just haven't put him in the plug and plays because I know what's going to happen. I'll put him in there. He'll put up a poor score, and then we won't pick him. We'll miss a big score again. And so I'm avoiding it for now because we did that to the goalie. I just think
Sinclair out though. That's really opened it up now.
He looks so good. So yeah, put Brad Hill in your side. We love a Brad Hill again this week, but we wanted to talk about again a couple other players. So a Toby Green, I think we're putting a Toby Green in our side. We're going to chase that matchup there against the Bombers. I think he'd be silly not to. He's one of the most selected forwards in GameDay Squad, and he's just been having a great season too. He probably doesn't cop enough love from fantasy coaches.
The last couple months have been impressive. Just gets it done.
Very. Yeah, he's had 135, 155, 117, 90, 107, and 126 in his last 6 games. So he's been absolutely killing it. And we know Essendon, the second best matchup for opposition forwards. I just think that, he's going to go really well. Last 2 against the Bombers, 120, 101. He's locked in for me. Are you putting salary on a Toby Green this week? I've got a silver in Classic, but I'm not sure if I should be doing that or just playing a bronze and loading up in the midfield in the back line.
Yeah, I've got just a bronze because I've got too much salary on, because I feel like there's some really, really good matchups, like just in Classic, which I'll show my squad later on. I've put more platinums in there this week to really attack those good matchups. So, like the Giants boys in defence, those midfielders. So he's just a bronze, but if you want to put salary on him, he's the sort of guy that could kick 5 and have 25 touches and give you 150, and you look like a genius putting salary, because it's a great matchup. It's there for him. So he's an option. He's one of the ones in the forward line. If you're going to put salary on besides Sheasel, it's him with the matchup.
Yeah, I like that. Jordan DeGoey, he had a 120 last week against the Kangaroos, mate. He had a poor week the one before.
What he was on at quarter time?
Yeah, I think it was like 4 GDS points.
4 points, 1 kick.
Oh,
and thankfully saved it. Thankfully,
I didn't play him last week either. So at quarter time,
and I was riding
I had the head wobbles, and I was very excited about it. And I watched that second quarter, and that whole game. I think Haz and I, we talked about this last week. We saw the week really well. Like we were seeing them like beach balls, except that one game. We didn't play Jacobs. We played Caleb Daniel. We didn't play Jordan DeGoey. We just got everything wrong in that game. And I couldn't believe it.
Darcy Cameron. Salary on top of Dacos and he gets tagged.
And then, funnily enough, like everything else, we had got right. It was just funny that one game we couldn't get right. So yeah, Jordan DeGoey.
She's the only one that we.
Yeah, she's though, isn't he? Yeah. So can we trust him again this week because his role's still there? And I said that last week too. I was like, yeah, you can go with Jordan DeGoey against the North Melbourne. His role's still there. There's no reason not to. It's just for me. After that poor score, I wasn't keen to go back there. I thought North were a bit more tricky, but he just showed he's such a good player and he's in great form. So he doesn't have the best best matches against them recently. He's had 53 and 67 in his last two. But keep in mind, he was subbed out in one of those games early and he was injured in the other. So you can't read too much into that. You have to read more on his current form because he had a score of 101 before that. I think in the forward line, given his role, he's looking hungry for those plus sevens. I like him.
Yeah, he's in for me. Like he's had one bad game since round 9. Like he's got scores of 135, 108, 130, 142, 105, 138, 121. The 72 against Gold Coast a couple weeks ago, and then the 120 last week. So like, tell me that's what a forward scoring. Like he's he'd be a plug and play based on that sort of form. So for me, I think he's someone I'm really keen to go with once again. Yep,
and we probably don't need to talk too much about Zach Bailey either against West Coast.
Yeah, no, he's in. He's getting it done, and I feel like have you got both the Hawks boys? Because I got both of them in. I got both McDonald and Ginnivan in just to attack this matchup.
I don't know why I don't. I'm not sure which way I want to go.
I've gone both because I'm worried about the one I don't pick is the one that goes big, right? Because it's like if it's not McDonald, it's Ginnivan. If it's not Ginnivan, it's McDonald. If it's not either of those guys, it's Dylan Moore. If it's none of them, it's Nick Watson. Like it's just that. They all score well like there, but I feel like this is a matchup against Richmond where I feel like McDonald and Ginnivan are going to get a lot of plus sevens. They're going to kick maybe a goal or two each. I just felt this is a matchup where I quite like both.
Okay, so you got Sheasel, Green,
yep,
DeGoey,
yep,
Bailey,
yep,
Ginnivan,
yep,
McDonald. That's your 7.
Yep.
Okay, I've got a Sparrow in there.
Yep. And then Sparrow's the one I tossed up there, but unfortunately I didn't have a bronze, so that's why I've probably gone for the Hawthorn boys. I've only got a silver, and I want that other salary across my other players. But Sparrow's the one as well that I have considered against North there that could go well. But I feel like Sparrow's ceiling's been capped recently. Like he hasn't really been able to put up a 120 odd score for a while. It's been pretty much like 105, like 110, and they're good scores, right? But I feel like Ginnivan and McDonald could go 120. This week.
Yeah, and that's a very good shout too. So with a Connor McDonald and a Jack Ginnivan, their recent form suggests Ginnivan's a bit more consistent than a Connor McDonald.
Agreed,
so Connor McDonald probably does. He's the one that might have. They probably both have a ceiling this week, but Connor McDonald has been more up and down. So Ginnivan's been 119, 101, 136, 82, and 106, whereas McDonald has been 129, 78, 105, 95, 96. So still pretty consistent, actually, mind you. It was just that 178 score in that recent scoring. And Tog as well, time on ground has been quite similar, but you'll find that like McDonald is up and down in his time on ground. So he's 82%, 68%, 78%, and 84%, whereas Guinea's more consistent in that low 80%, pretty much most weeks. The thing for me with the Connor McDonald, like he's still a good pick this week, right? He gets his 25 to 30% CBAs, but I hate the fact that he starts on the bench. I can't stand it.
Mate, you preaching to the choir right here. Like there's nothing I hate more than a player that starts. The only way that if it's okay if they start off is if like, and I still don't like it either. I'd still like if someone said start on the field, not just start your best players on the field, but like a Nick Newman last couple of weeks, just start on the bench, but he's played like 92% game time average in the last 2 weeks. Like that, I can take that. If you start off on the bench, you might come off once more and that's it, right? But if you're playing like 80% Tog and you're starting on the bench, it means that you're likely to come off for a second time in the quarter and you don't get the game early and you sort of feel like you're behind the 8 ball. You want them starting.
Yeah. 68% for Connor McDonald the week before last week and 78% the week before that. That's the thing I don't love about a Connor McDonald. He's one of my, again, not one of my favorite players, but I love him. I've got a soft spot for a Connor McDonald. That's the thing I don't love is the time on ground. At times he's not as good and he starts off the ground and Yeah, that's the only thing for me. But the matchup is there. It suggests it's pretty good. They're the best matchup for opposition forwards this season. They have been more neutral recently, just to flag that. They're the second best matchup for opposition mids. And again, for mids, a bit more neutral recently. So they haven't been maybe the flat track team that teams look to beat up on as much as they have done earlier in the season. And I don't know if I want to go and back both of them in personally. So for me, I think I'm a Ginnivan over a Connor McDonald. But I think, you're definitely entitled to play both, hey?
Yeah, and that's what I've done as well. I've got both, but yeah, and it could go wrong, but I feel like I want the ceiling access to this matchup and both. And the Hawthorn boys have got Richmond this week, then Nesta next week. So I feel like you're going to be talking about them again next week with that matchup. So
yeah, that's it. Oh, you're giving me something to think about there. All right, and in terms of the others, mate, Tom Sparrow, we've already sort of discussed him there too. I think we can be picking him. He's pretty consistent. Some of the others though, a Murphy Reid or a Shea Bolton against that depleted Port midfield. Could you be tempted by one of the Dockers forwards there? So I think Shea Bolton might be the one with the ceiling, and the Murphy Reid might be more consistent. I feel like Bolton could be harder to pick at times. I would be more keen on this if this was at Optus. I'm probably less keen with it at Adelaide Oval. I don't know if there's much substance to that. That's just kind of me personally as a fantasy coach.
it's just Freo. Like they're obviously amazing football team at the moment. Like this year, they're just the fantasy points just don't flow to a specific couple of players. They flow to everyone. So there's a lot of like 110s, 100s, 90s, 80s, 70s. But there's not a lot of 120s, 130s. Everything like Brayshaw, back-to-back weeks. A couple weeks ago, obviously went well. We've seen Strong every now and again will get a 120. We've seen Bolton, as you said, Murphy Reid, and like even Jackson's probably only one from Freo I'd trust most weeks, depending on the matchup and depending on the other options. But yeah, like I feel like that Reid and Bolton are great players, but they're very consistently sort of not quite hitting those 120 heights. So I feel like I just like the other options better, and agreed. The fact that it's at Adelaide Oval, I still expect Freo to win and win quite well because of how depleted Port are. But yeah, I feel like I'm probably not going there. The one I'm not. If it wasn't against Geelong, I'd be a little bit more keen to chuck him in a different squad. You've got him as a primetime pod. Mason Wood. If anyone has not looked at Mason Wood's last 3 weeks, he's gone 121, 128, 128, and he's getting involved in. I've had one of the podcasts this week almost. I think it might have been the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Pod called it almost like the St Kilda Mafia. Like they chip it round to each other. So it's like it's Max Hall.
It's an exclusive club.
Cy Wangan Mellera. It's Brad Hill. It's Ryan Marshall, and it's like Mason Wood is also involved in.
Say Cal Wilkie as well.
And Cal Wilkie was the other one. I knew I was forgetting someone. Thank you. Yeah. So it's like all those guys just getting in on the action, and Mason Wood's doing that. So in some better matchups to come, Mason Wood, just jot him down on your notes because I think he's someone that could be to consider.
Well, he was the reason why I got that Sunday ticket. Well, I've had one, the second win in the Sunday Showdown competition a couple of weeks ago. So I played him at F7 in that really positive matchup. So that 120 odd back there was unreal. So that's why I put him as a primetime pod, just someone who you might have a card that you can play in primetime and other coaches might not look to go there. He could be a sneaky little player to get you up that leaderboard.
Yeah, exactly.
What about this question here from Corey Blackledge, mate? Hunter Clark coming in, does he hurt Brad Hill's scoring? You might be able to give more of an insight. I think personally, probably not. But I probably don't have anything to substantiate that there. Sorry, Corey Blackledge, but I'm not too concerned, mate. Just because Brad Hill it's very hard not to pick a Brad Hill this week, particularly down at the Cats and in the role he's playing. What we've seen so far, I think until we see otherwise, we're probably just picking him each week.
Yeah, I'm not too worried. Just with Sinclair being out is the big reason why Hill's is scoring, and I'm not a big fan of Hunter Clark anyway. I think he's had a lot of years to prove, and I know injuries have played a part in that. I just don't think he's quite going to be a player that's going to come in and impact really anyone in fantasy too much. I think that it'll just be Brad Hill dominating and be able to
see him with low time on ground too. They might look to really look after him.
Yeah, exactly. Could be that guy on the bench that he could even play a little bit of midfield as well. We've seen that in the past, and even if he does play half back, it's as we said, it's the Mafia, it's the St Kilda Mafia. It's Wilkie, it's Brad Hill, and it's Naz. They're the three in the defence there that rack it up. So
yeah, it's a good call. Well, here's our contender sides, as you can see on screen. And again, this is subject to change because I haven't been really confident with the team that I've been picking. And I think we had a great discussion there. You'll see in my backline, mate, I've got a Callum Wilkie there. If this was the team I was prioritising after our conversations, I think it's probably an Archie Roberts maybe coming in over a Cal Wilkie at this stage, just with Jack Henry being named there. We assume he might do a bit of a defensive role on a Callum Wilkie. But we also discussed how hard it is to leave a Callum Wilkie out. So he'll feature somewhere in my teams across Contender, Classic and Challenger. But that's probably the change I would be making from this one. And as you can see in Hazard's backline there, he's got an Archie Roberts. But we both have the two Giants. They'll be great. We both have a Josh Dacos, Dane Zorko. Yeah, some pretty standard picks in that backline, I think, with some good matchups. And in the midfield there, well, I have an Isaac Heady. Again, after our conversations, he might be one I look to move out, and maybe Anando's the other. Even though I really like the matchup there for Anando, maybe he's the other one I'm looking at. But Max Holmes, I want a piece of Max Holmes somewhere. I think he could be really good down there, and I don't mind playing the two cats. You can see Hazard's gone that way in his contender side as well. He's also going to Lockie Neal. We like a Neal. We like a Will Ashcroft. We like a Finn Callahan. Lots of players. You're just trying to squeeze him into those 7 spots. Hey,
Yeah,
we're quite similar across the ruck line there with a Gawn and a Marshall, and then in the forwards as well. I have a Christian Petrarca there. I might keep him in contender, but he might not feature in my classic and my challenger sides after that. I might squeeze a Jackie Ginnivan in. I like a Jack Ginnivan. And then has gone a Murphy Reed pod as well in his forward line. He's going to see if he can get something there from that matchup too. What are your thoughts having a look just at those teams, mate, after our conversations?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I like the teams, and pretty much every player there is either in my squad or been in consideration. So yeah, I can look at them. So and there's obviously my squad just up on the screen at the moment as well. That for that there, so that's the classic side there. So really, it's pretty much a lot of the same players. A couple of differences in here or there, but again, probably the players I've got in the squad that you guys don't have. We've chatted about, right, and we've said how that we like them as options. So.
Yeah, I think Finn Callahan's probably the one that might come in for me after our conversation around the fact he got tagged last week up against the Bombers. It's a good matchup. And as I said, sometimes if I'm like, am I going a Clary or a Finn Callahan? I think that Callahan is a better player, is a better footballer. So I'm going to go with Finn Callahan. That's kind of how I make some decisions there. So I like that call. So I might work a Finn Callahan in for me. Yeah, I like a Will Ashcroft. Hard to go against an Isaac Heaney, but we spoke about
he's the one that I've tossed up with a few different options, but I've probably just got him there just based on the form of he's been in this year. But yeah, he's the one that I'd be considering possibly changing.
Yeah, Justin Bronze, Wanganeen Miller as well.
Yeah, I think just for this week, just with the tag that will be there, so I don't expect a big ceiling score. And I've got the ceiling on, like I've got Ash, Whitfield, Callahan all in the Bombers matchup, so I just expect that those guys are going to go well. Like Baz, Bont. Then obviously I've got the All-Star Dagos and the prize card Dawson, which are my two boys. They're my two prize possessions in GameDay Squad. And then Shees, Marshall being the other two guys with a bit of salary along with Ashcroft and Heaney. And then just got the silver on Gawn and Newman.
Yeah, no, I like it, mate. Really good. It's good to show me this team because I'm just ahead of you on the leaderboard, so I might make my team really similar.
Hang on, I'm gonna pop that off the screen there. Just so don't want to give the secrets.
Nah, it's good, mate. Great to get your thoughts here on this sort of week too, because it is a tricky week with so many possible options. I'm gonna share. Oh, I've done that too early.
Oh, here we go. Exciting.
Early there, I didn't show our FantasyBros. BroDown ShowDown. I apologize. Let me back here. It happened. So last week we went up against Cash Money. He took out the win, mate. He got us 3-1. So shout out to Cash Money. Really good bloke there in the Discord, and he's killing it on the leaderboards as well, as he always does. So it was Logan Evans who took the win against Colby McKercher. Kirch was disappointing, unfortunately, in that good matchup.
Colby should have done much better in that matchup.
He should have. Yeah, and you can see we kind of went with those Kangaroos defenders, those halfbacks there too. You Caleb Daniel, McKercher, Cooper Harvey, those guys, and they just didn't pay off in the end. So that was disappointing. Kane McAuliffe got the win over Cooper Harvey there in our pod line. Logan Morris took the win against Riley Sanders, but we got the win in the midfield line. Zeke Euland over Levi Ashcroft, funnily enough, who had the matchup. So shout out to Cash Money. He takes out the win. And like I just put up on the screen there. That's our wheel. And they're the names of people who backed in a cash money last week to take out the win. So shout out there to Arnie Booger, Peter Quicksilver, Michael Cossey, Max Hansen, Jacob125, and Corey Blackledge. Going to spin this wheel now. We'll see who gets a row of that 9-player common pack. And cash money will take the other 2 rows as well for getting involved in our BroDown Showdown. Shout out to Arnie Booger.
Hopefully this makes up for the Jeremy Cameron injury for you, Arnie Booger. Hope you impact some.
Yeah,
nice,
could
nice
you
stuff
imagine if we pull?
Imagine
Imagine
like a
if we
diamond
pull a
Jeremy
Jeremy
Cameron,
Cameron
like diamond
this
Jeremy
on.
Cameron to store away for like next year and whatever. And apparently he's a half back now. So look at these sneaky packs we've got in stored away.
Yeah, I'm saving up. I'm saving up, mate. For now, I'm not going to open these till next season. I started saving up like a week or 2 ago, and then I was like, nah, I've got to rip it. But these were all from last week, which is really good. So just shows you when you play across like your 6 competitions, you've just got so many opportunities to win some packs and win some cards. Like those unique packs and rare packs come from tops.
Here we go.
And I don't go too well in the primetime competition, but I get a rare pack typically each week from that, and that sort of adds up across the season when you look at building your squad.
Yeah.
Now, which row or which column you can choose, mate? Which one is going to go to Arnie?
Arnie Booger's asking for diagonal. I've never had anyone ask for the diagonal. Can we do a diagonal? Can we go like top?
Yeah.
Can we go like top left, middle,
and
then bottom right? Can we do something like that?
Yep. Yeah, we'll do that for sure. All right. So we have a gold,
and a platinum.
And
is that a platinum?
A platinum.
That's
nice.
not.
I think so. No, I think that's a platinum.
That's not a bad start from a common pack to get 2 golds and a platinum. So hopefully there's something there.
Yeah. See how we go. A gold Hayes from the Lions.
Gold Hayden Young.
A gold Hayden Young. That's a good card to be holding on to. Hopefully he can come back too this year. And a platinum Jack Payne. No, unfortunately, no cats there, Arnie Booger. But
sorry, Arnie Booger.
Hit me up in Discord. Put a trade up, swing me a message, and I'll get those cards over there to Arnie Booger. And then Cash Money, he has the remaining cards. So let's see what he has packed himself over here. So it looks like another plat there, a couple golds. Let's see what we have. So a gold Freddie, gold House from Collingwood, gold Finn McGuinness, gold Paddy Cripps. That's a pretty good card as well to hold on to, especially coming into our finals competitions. Silver Huey, Hugh McCluggage, and a Silver Lance Collard
that makes me feel a little bit better. Probably Young might be the best card there in terms of for dynasty sort of purposes that there if he can get fit. And then you got the only platinum there. So and Booger, I hope it did okay, but obviously not too many players in that pack that you probably want, unfortunately.
No, that's it. The Hayden Young's the good one there for sure. But again, Arnie Booger, hit me up in the Discord and you have those 3 cards there. And Cash Money, same thing, mate. Flick me a message in Discord and put up a trade up for those cards and I'll get those across to you as well.
Cash Money's probably thinking, probably just thinking, I did well in the BroDown Showdown and regardless of the pack stitched us up. Like, what's going on?
I'm sure he's got a good card collection himself too. So
yes, I know.
He's more than welcome to have those cards, but he is he's killing it in those competitions. Now, actually, what I need to do here as well is I need to get out of this because that's not quite showing up. Our next BroDown Showdown for round 19. Haz and I were going against again. The score is now out to 9-5 to me. So I made the rule, mate. If we get to 10-5, I win the year. And Haz is not too happy with that.
We're getting a bit
so
of,
here you go. Our
behind the scenes look here at how the slideshow's made for Fantasy Bros. Here we go.
Yeah,
here it is. Yeah.
All of our secrets. Yeah. Alrighty. So here's gone with it's primetime edition. I should mention too. I know I don't have that on screen. It is primetime edition, so only primetime players in that Thursday and Friday game. So has gone with Wayne Miller. Arnie Booger gave that mention earlier in the stream, and I've gone with Cal Wilkie in defense. I can't change that pick now, but I'm pretty happy with that anyway. I think even regardless of that potential tag, we talked about how good he's been and what his ceiling is like. So I'm happy with that defensive pick. Then we have Goulden against Warner in the midfield, which I really like as a bit of a matchup. And I should say we haven't gone with our plug and plays, by the way. The forward line, Curnow against Brad Hill. So has Brad Hill. I have a Charlie Curnow. And then we've got a pod. We've tried to avoid the rucks this week. We want to go for a pod. He's gone Hugo Garcia and I've gone Lawson Humphreys. So get in the chat now. Let us know. Drop a comment. Do you reckon Haz is going to get the win? with his picks there of Miller, Goulden, Garcia, and Hill? Or do you reckon is it Pitty? Drop Pitty in the comments if you think I will, with a Wilkie, Warner, Humphreys, and a Kerno. What are your initial thoughts there, Bales?
I think I like Hazes 4. I think. Sorry, Pitty, mate. Sorry, Pitty, mate. Just probably with the Wilkie chat, a little bit worried there.
Yeah. No, that's all right. Michael Cossey thinks the same. He's gone Haz. Maxie Hansen, he's gone Haz as well. And it's okay, boys. It's all good to be wrong because I know I'm going to come out on top. It's all good. Rarities matter? No, rarities don't matter. Sorry, Arnie Booger. We just like to show off different rarities. That's all. So it's all base points. No, all base points. And then Corey Blackledge, well done. He's wrong as well. Sorry, Pitty.
I like that. He's wrong as well.
Nah, how can you argue? Brad Hill, right? Brad Hill, Hugo Garcia, Errol Goulden. Some great picks. But yeah, get your comment in. You can win yourself some cards. Again, sign up to GameDay Squad using that code FBAR26. There's heaps going on. Women's season's not too far away too, mate, which I'm really keen for.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I've already started dropping a couple of packs, dabbling in the packs and getting ready to go, which will be good. We've got, I think, less than a month now. So,
what's your any good cards? What's your best card?
I'll just
like packed recently. Have you packed a good card recently that you're stoked about?
Yeah, I think I did. I reckon I got a All-Star Bonnie 2 good. I think from a 9-player common, which was quite nice.
Oh, nice. And I know there's a few people in the chat as well who are in the AFLW fantasy community as well. Corey Blackledge, I think, from memory last season, he's keen for the season ahead for women. So it's going to be a cracking one, mate. And I saw they made some changes today where the player pool's been updated. We've got new players in the game over there. So GameDay Squad is the place to be. And they just announced NFL as well. Dill was talking about that earlier too. So heaps going on.
Been a long time. Like I've been busted. I've been bloody telling Cal, like, Cal, you got to get NFL on here. Like he knows me and him obviously are in a league together and everything. So like, just like, mate, you got to get NFL on the platform. So the fact that that's on there is just like it's like Christmas. Like Christmas come early. Like it's Christmas in July, really. Like they always say that, but it genuinely is with NFL announced there. So that's going to be really good for your on there.
Exactly. And again, make sure you sign up to our socials, Fantasy Bros AU across all your social platforms, because Dill and Stu, they love their NFL as well. And they have everyone covered in terms of that. If you're not sure what to do, a bit like me, you can follow us along and the boys will have you covered for that season. But Bales, thanks for a big round 19 preview, mate. We have our next preview episode next week, Wednesday, 22nd of July. Thank you to everyone for tuning in and listening, and good luck for the round ahead. Thanks, Bales.